Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. It is once again time for shop tour. It is a bit of a dreary day here in Topeka. Yesterday it was 80 something. Today the high is like 40 something. So welcome to Kansas in the spring. But it is April 14th and we are just a couple days away from Easter. And we are also about 1 week away from starting to go to our first SCCA race down at Hallett. But for now, let's get into the shop tour. So last week you saw that I had that Porsche 911 Carrera in the shop, no fuel, and we had a door lock problem. So check this out. Apparently, this is a common little issue. This is a relay that has two phases to it. So when you turn the ignition on, the first section of the relay has to open, which gives you ignition power. Once that happens, it travels into the bottom through the circuit board into the second relay, which clicks for engaging power to the fuel pump. So we did not have power to the pump. Did a bunch of tests. You can actually get online and there's some great YouTube videos about how to resolder the back of these boards. So I did that, but it still didn't work. So just got a new relay fixed. Car runs beautiful. The other problem that apparently nobody wanted to deal with this car was the door lock. So when you open the door or you try and lock the door with the key, the driver's side door would lock and then unlock. The passenger side didn't have, the motor was bad, and when one doesn't work, they both don't work. So if you've got one of these old Porsches and you're having problems with your lock, it's probably the door actuator. So a little tricky to get into the door on the car, but it is all fixed, ready to go. Customer should be picking it up, I think, later today. In the meantime, we've got some X-Track update. So last week you saw the transmission in a million pieces. This week it is completely clean, together, and ready to go. So the other thing that you see here on the bench is a drive shaft. Now, I'm not quite ready to unveil what we've come up with until we test it, but you can see we have a brand new drive shaft, and right here is where the CV joint used to ride in the old ones, right? I'm not going to show you what's under here quite yet until we actually put it in the car and prove that it works. But kind of an interesting thing. That's a little teaser for the day. So speaking of going racing, and if you haven't seen it, there's a whole fuel injector testing and cleaning video on the channel. Look down below. But I got a set of fuel injectors here. These are actually Eric Greisinger's fuel injectors, which our cameraman behind the camera here probably put these in, because these are out of a Toyota Supra 310cc injectors, and I don't think that he'd had these cleaned in quite a while. So these came back in, and you watch the video, you always see how I flow them, and then you can see how nasty these filters look. These filters sit right up in the top, so they're kind of your final filter before you get the fuel goes into the injector. So the injectors actually flowed pretty well, but put new filters in, new O-rings, reflowed them, picked up about 10 cc's, all balanced perfectly, ready to go. So the moral of the story is, in the spring, if you haven't had your injectors checked and cleaned, it's $30 an injector, guys. Send them to me, send them to your favorite fuel injector service place. You can have one injector not flowing what it should be and burn that cylinder down, and if that happens, don't blame your engine builder. Alright guys, moving around here. Got a new car into the shop. This is actually a really early 1.6 1990 small nose crank, pretty much pristine Miata from Illinois, as you can see. I kind of hate it that some states make you run a front plate. I think it detracts from the look of the car, and what's the other thing it's doing? It's completely blocking the air from going into the radiator. So I don't know what the solution is on a Miata if you're forced to run a license plate, but that's kind of a kind of a shame. But anyway, this guy is wanting an engine rebuild with some performance upgrades. He initially talked about wanting to do a supercharger, and I think he actually bought the supercharger kit, but I think he's decided that he just wants a naturally aspirated upgrade. So this car is going to be here for a while. You're going to see a bunch of upgraded parts. You can see he's already got a coolant reroute on the car. Already has a nice radiator, different air filter, you know, with a heat shield here and a vent catch bottle. So he's done some nice upgrades to this car already, and it's super clean. I don't really know what the DM means. I guess, I don't know. He said that he does track days. These are magnets, so I don't really know what group he's running with, but really nice actually short nose crank car. So this will be kind of fun to look at and do some upgrades over the next few months. You guys will get to see that. In the meantime, we have the next great Simon's F Production Miata chassis in the shop. You guys may have seen this a few months ago. It's been sitting out in the container waiting for a time for it to come in. You can see it's kind of been stripped down. Perry and Steven did a bunch of stripping on it. It's also probably sat underneath of some sort of a cedar tree for a while. And but they did a pretty good job following my instructions on stripping the back fenders off, cutting those out, and there was only one boo-boo, and I think he did this when he was attempting to load it. So we've got pretty big damage right here in the main unibody. So this is kind of an unexpected issue we're going to have to deal with here, but all in all, the chassis is really solid, no rust underneath. The frame rails look good. We'll get this car out, get it baked and blasted like we've done the other cars, and then we'll start into seam welding, custom roll cage, ready to go. So over this direction, we talked about how we had a little trigger wheel situation with Eric's car. So what I did is I redesigned a crank sensor bracket, so now we have a Hall effect sensor that essentially screws into the bracket with a single nut on the back, so you can really set your gap on your sensor properly. And now it's actually square also to the trigger wheel. I like to run these about 10 to 12 thousandths gap. We were trying to run it at about 20 thou, and it just was breaking up and carrying on. So we're going to get onto the dyno shortly, because Hallett's next week. We got to get this car ready to go, and but we're looking pretty good here. So one more dyno session, we should be good. Once again, the update on the BMW is that it's just sitting here. I guess by next week I had better get it final cleaned and get the trailer out and start organizing all of that. Although, if you know me, I keep things pretty well organized. I actually have my runoffs flag sitting here because SCCA wants to borrow this. Unfortunately, we lost one of our national champions this week, Scott Rettich, so this shop tour goes out to him and his friends and family. Way too young to lose someone like that, multi-time national champion in spec racers and FE2, and a good kid, and so our thoughts and prayers go out to him this week. But they're going to do a bit of a tribute on the, I'm assuming, the website, and they needed a flag, so that's why this is sitting here. So a bit of a somber end to our shop tour today, but life's short, guys. Make sure that you love your family and get out to the racetrack and enjoy your life as much as possible, because you never know when it might be over. So hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Hope the weather's getting better, and next week we will have a shop tour right before I take off for Hallett. So probably have an opportunity to see the trailer and kind of revisit the way that I like to load the trailer and things like that. But we are in that mode, guys. I can't wait. Last weekend I had the opportunity to go run at the new Ozark track, and so we actually have an entire video coming up on the channel about my thoughts on the track and a little bit of a tour on the track, and also a special in-car video. I'm not going to give away exactly what it is quite yet, but really enjoyed my time running around the track. Got about 4 hours in the Automotion DJ Manis's Miata. Very stock Miata, but a really good way to learn that track. Couple quick tips if you're planning on going in June, and I'll say this in the video as well. The paddock is completely paved, but there's not a lot of flat spots. So for the first time, probably ever, I'm actually going to pay to have a garage where I can have a flat spot for the car and a flat spot for the RV and trailer, because like I said, there's a lot of pavement, but the elevation change is unlike anything I've ever seen, and a really fun track to learn. So keep your eyes open for that here in the next week or so. And in the meantime, keep after it, and talk to you next week. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Well, you know, I attended my first runoffs 26 years ago. I was just 6 weeks old, and it's just a dream come true to finally win one.
Congratulations, Scott, on a hard-earned victory. 2010 national champion in the Formula Enterprise class. Good job.
Thanks a lot.